I am fairly new to the area. This is my first Maryland Male Students of Conference, Students of Color event, and it's really exciting to be here. And, the fact that we're bringing so many young males of color, one place at one time to be able to congregate, to be able to talk and really hear about what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And I got to get all close up on this microphone. And to hear about what's happening on a day-to-day basis and be able to see each other, live with each other, breathe with each other, and learn from each other is just fantastic. I don't really know that I've had events like this growing up. So it's just fantastic to see everyone, and we're really happy that you're here at Montgomery College, of course. And there's a lot of things I could say, and we all know that we live in an inequitable society. We know that for a fact. We live it, we breathe it. So I'm not here to tell you things that you've heard before about how society is not fair and how we're treated. But I am here. I did want to share something that I didn't hear a lot growing up as a male of color. So you'll indulge me for a few minutes. I was actually reading something the other day about leadership in Harvard Business Review. So a lot of this is coming from there, and it's really taken a lens that, again, I didn't get a lot growing up, so I'm going to share with you how we leverage society to our advantage, right? Not because society is fair, right? Not because society doesn't change, because it's not fair and it does need to change. But how can we leverage what we go through on a daily basis, right, to move forward, to advance as leaders? And that's really what I want to share. So first and foremost, I want you to embrace, just think about, try it on, see how it feels, the fact that your lived experiences are creating leadership characteristics and assets each and every day. Your lived experiences. Now, these are experiences and these are assets that people can learn. They can learn them, but our lived experiences are creating them for us. And I'm just going to give you three, right? Again, based on this article, right? The idea of passion. Passion as a leader. There's a lot of research that will posit that as men of color, when we look to pursue our leadership roles in our organizations that we want to contribute to, it comes from a deep passion, a passion of something that we are close to, something that we have seen in society, something that we have experienced. And that type of drive cannot be replaced by reading it in a book, by having your friends tell you about it. So when you have that passion and that drive that comes from a lived experience, that is a leadership quality that people look towards, and one that is unique to our lived experiences. When you think about building relationships, whether it is you're navigating microaggressions, and trust me, y'all, so my first name is Jermaine. I'm still in president's groups where people don't say my name right. In Zoom meetings, y'all. That's like wearing a name badge and you can't read my box that has my name on it. So whether it's a microaggression to the point of not saying your name correctly or blatant racism, when you think about building relationships and what we as men of color need to navigate day in and day out to achieve our goals, that's an asset, right? You're learning. We're learning how to navigate. We're learning how to build these leadership skills based on the society that we have to navigate. Again, it's not fair, but we need to leverage it until we can change it, right? The last thing I'll leave you with, and this is in terms of kind of a segue from the building relationships, is being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. I see some heads nodding. Being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. As leaders, we're looked to navigate, innovate, prototype, oftentimes when it's uncomfortable. And if I had $1 for every time I had to navigate an uncomfortable situation as a man of color, I'd probably be retiring like about 5 minutes ago, right? So, and I see the heads nodding, I know you experience it, but being able to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Again, something that we experience, a leadership trait that we can leverage to put ourselves in roles, in places, and spaces where I am thankful enough to be, that I've been working hard to get to, where I can interrogate the policies and the procedures that have created the inequitable and unjust society that we live in, right? I can encourage, I can invite, I can request, I can expect people to dismantle what has been put together through institutional and racial discrimination, right? That is where we're going, right? That is where, as leaders, the impact we can make. And we can leverage our current situation to get there. So I want you to just think about that, try that on. As I'm sharing, it's not about right now the reality of the situation in terms of, is it right? It's not right. We've all been through a lot of things that are not right in our lives. But let's leverage what we have. Let's leverage what's there so we can get to the positions where we can impact change.
Glad to see everybody here. Glad to be here. I hate that we are sitting indoors. It's a gorgeous day outside. Anybody who lives in the DMV knows that cold is coming. I can't stand cold weather. I am absolutely black. I meant for heat. I'm from Houston, so I give heat and I like heat. So that's what I prefer. Plus, I can play golf anytime I damn well feel like it. Snow gets in the way, but it's all good. Glad to see everyone here. Glad to see your new president here. Congratulations to him taking over here at Montgomery College, and certainly good luck taking over. Carmen, you can breathe now. She was stressing. I'm like, calm down. We good. We good. Everybody kept coming to the room like, need anything? I'm fine. I'm good. I'm low maintenance. I'm like, don't worry about it. Just give me a bottle of water, and I'm ready to go. So it's all right. So this ain't my first rodeo, and so I'm sure you got other speakers, and they got a whole list of stuff. I don't need all that. Just show me where the microphone and the podium is, and we're going to do what we do. And so that's how I operate. So they are recording this. I told them, I said, let me know. I'm not afraid to be recorded. My show is called Roland Unfiltered. And so when this is over, we'll get the recording and then we'll stream it on my platform. And I want to start there because if you have an opportunity, pull your phones out and download the Black Star Network app. A year ago, I actually launched my OTT platform because I'm a firm believer in owning. I don't want to ask somebody else for permission to do something. So when I launched my show 4 years ago, Roland Martin Unfiltered, the goal was always to create my own platform. And so we launched the Black Star Network September 4th of last year. We have 5 other shows on the network, 3 shows in development. And by the end of this month, we'll launch our 24-hour streaming channel. That'll be on Amazon platform, and we're actually negotiating with several other companies to launch that. And here you go. And you might ask, well, what does that have to do with, again, a Men of Color conference? Because it is about being able to control the images of us. The nation's first black newspaper is called Freedom's Journal. And they launched on March 16, 1827. In the 3rd paragraph on this lead editorial on the front page, they wrote, "We wish to plead our own cause, too long have others spoken for us." And if you look at this country, you look at how media has been used to define this country. If you're a black, if you're Latino, if you are Asian, if you're Native American, you essentially are non-existent in this culture in terms of what we see. And if you do see folk who look like us, it's really based upon a number of stereotypes that we know as not what we represent. That is because those who are in charge are the ones who determine what gets portrayed, what gets covered. When you look at American media, that is America's greatest export. And so people all around the world have a view of African Americans, Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans based upon what they see on television. And to understand how devastating those images are, there's still people who around the world have a view of black folks based upon those old Tarzan movies. There are movies based upon, again, the Lone Ranger and the view of Tonto. And we could go on and on and on how American mass media has portrayed people of color, specifically men of color. I can tell you the number of Latino actors who tell you that they pretty much are pigeonholed into gang member roles or drug dealer roles. Same for African Americans. Cuba Gooding Jr. talked about after his amazing performance in Boys in the Hood, all he ever received for a decade were gangster roles. And so that's the reality of what we're living in, because this nation has been defined through the prism of whiteness. It has been defined through the prism of white maleness. And that's how this nation was founded. That's how it is always operated. And so to understand the world that you are now becoming mature in, you have to understand what is the world we were before. And so if I had to tag this text, anybody who's been to a black church, y'all know what that phrase means. So the person next to you is clueless about what that means, just tell them it's a black church thing. That's called what you name your sermon. And so I was contemplating what I wanted to name this, and so I'll do so by saying, walking in full authority as a 21st century man. Now, the reason I say that, because some of y'all might fall asleep, so if you don't remember anything I say, you might remember the title. Walking in your full authority as a 21st century man. Turn to the person to your left and repeat that. Now turn to the person to your right and repeat that. Now I want you to look behind you and turn to the person behind you and repeat what I just said. All right. All right. Now you should remember what the name of this is. Most people in this country, including black people, probably have only heard 2 speeches from Dr. King. It's amazing in this country, you swear, out of all of the speeches and events and the writings, that's the only thing that we tend to focus on in this country. His I Have a Dream speech, delivered August 28, 1963. And that actually wasn't even the name of the speech. It was Normalcy No More. That was the actual written title of that speech. The I Have a Dream portion of that speech was not even in the written text. It was added on in the moment as he was speaking. Many folks don't even realize that he gave nearly that exact I Have a Dream portion 1 month earlier when he spoke at what was then the largest mass gathering at a march in Detroit that took place the previous month. The march in August in D.C. actually eclipsed that particular march. Folks don't even think about that speech that he gave in Detroit. Or they talk about his mountaintop speech, which came at Mason Temple, April 3rd, 1968, the night before he was assassinated. And then when people talk about that particular speech, they only talk about the bottom minute and a half or 2 minutes when he was talking about, I've been to the mountaintop, without realizing that that was a 43-minute and 16-second speech that was amazing in terms of laying out the blueprint for Black America to move forward towards freedom and equality. If you have not heard it or read it, you really should, because it is arguably the greatest speech that he gave, and it is so prophetic in that it was as if he knew. If you listen to the full speech, not just the mountaintop speech, but you listen to the full speech, he fully knew his life was coming to an end and was leaving us again that blueprint for what we should be focusing on. And if you listen to that speech in 1968, you will swear he was talking to us here in 2022. But one of the speeches that I think is most profound that I've always enjoyed, it is one where we see an MLK that is unfamiliar to all of us. We often, my complaint that I have with us today is that we have positioned Dr. King as some civil rights mascot, as somebody who's a bobblehead figure who was just this nice and wonderful and quiet, meek person who got along with everybody and didn't want to rattle anyone's cages. And all he did was just go through life and just trying to make things better, when in fact he was this radical revolutionary. And the problem with using those phrases is that in American history, when you say the word revolutionary, it has only been used in a positive manner when it comes to the white men who owned slaves that founded the country. When you use that phrase for anyone else, especially those who are black, it immediately in people's mind conjures up images of black men in leather jackets and berets and scaring the hell out of them as Black Panthers. And so even when you use the phrase radical, it also scares people. When you use the phrase militant, that scares people. And I don't understand why white Americans get scared by the phrase militant, because if you look at the history of America, we solved everything with the gun. So I'm trying to understand why they're scared. Or maybe it's because if somebody else got the gun, it probably freaks them out. Such as when the Black Panthers went to the state capitol in California, in Sacramento, carrying long guns, they were like, oh no, y'all got to go. Then they said, well, you know, we just following the law. They immediately changed that law. So if we truly want gun control in America, probably if every black person can get a gun, we have gun control next week. But that's just a thought. The thing about having a deep understanding and reading of King and many of the folks during the Black Freedom Movement is that you do not get a very small, narrow understanding of who those individuals were. And when I say the individuals, I'm talking about men and women. I'm talking about, you really began to study Diane Nash, who's still alive in Chicago. She's 76 years old, or Zenona Clayton, or you study Fannie Lou Hamer, or James Orange, and Ralph Abernathy, and Hosea Williams, and all the different people, Fred Shuttlesworth, who were working with Dr. King, C.T. Vivian, Reverend Joseph Lowry, Andrew Young, who is 91 years old, still with us. All those individuals, you begin to really understand that these were ordinary people who were doing extraordinary things. They were people who were 18 and 19 and 20 years old. We look at them as these old figures who somehow were 50 and 60 and 70. No, they were not. They were 18, 19, and 20. Many of them were your age. Anybody here who is, let's say, anybody here who is 23 or older, raise your hand. Most of the individuals doing that movement were younger than you. And so when you think about what they were doing, they were putting their lives on the line, again, at 18, 19, 20. Many of them were kicked out of HBCUs because their presidents said, if you dare join the movement, we're going to expel you. In fact, many were expelled from those universities because they believed in something. And so we're talking about individuals who believed in a new vision for America and who were radical in their thought, who were militant and revolutionaries. I think about, again, James Forman's book where he talked about the new abolitionists. That's what they were creating. They were creating these radical revolutionaries. And actually Howard Zinn's book was dealing with the new abolitionists. James Forman's book was called These Radical Revolutionaries. And he was talking about what it is they were trying to achieve. And so they had a revolutionary thought. And a revolutionary thought means we literally have to reimagine this country and what it is we are trying to do in the future. Now, that is a unbelievably crazy thing if you're 18 and 19. Reverend Dr. James Lawson, you probably have never seen him or heard him. If you go back and go watch the funeral of Congressman John Lewis, Reverend Lawson gave one of the eulogies. And everybody talks about the eulogy that President Obama gave. It was nice. The real eulogy was the one Lawson gave. And the reason I call it the real eulogy, because it was Lawson, the creator of the Nashville movement, who trained John Lewis. And if you go listen to that eulogy, every person in this room, whether you man or woman, should listen to that eulogy and listen to this 91-year-old man, still strong, sound of mind, laying out who John Lewis was. And it's an amazing eulogy. I've had the opportunity to interview Reverend Lawson a couple of times, and the crazy thing is he doesn't seek the spotlight. You're not going to see him at marches. In fact, I was moderating a panel at Congressional Black Caucus Foundation annual legislative conference, and the general president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, my fraternity, the rest of my youth groups, 1906. So, yeah, some of y'all like, I know he didn't go there, but I did. He was about to leave, and he said, Brother Martin, he said, we about to leave out. He said, I got Dr. Lawson with me. I said, whoa, you got who? He said, he said, Dr. Lawson's here. I said, James Lawson? He said, yeah. He said, right there. Y'all, we in a room. He's sitting in the corner. Not the front row, not the second, third. He was lit. Imagine if we were in this room, and it was a much smaller room, but imagine if he was sitting in the corner. This is the architect of the Nashville movement. All of the folks who went through the Southern Christian Leadership Conference trained through the Nashville movement. This is a towering figure sitting in a corner. And so I'm moderating the panel, and he walked by, and I said, stop. And Harry Edwards was on the panel, and I said, stop. We about to make a shift, and the way I moderate, I don't let people touch the microphone, because you let somebody touch the microphone, you may not get it back. So they got to ask their questions. I'm holding the microphone. I said, we're going to break the rule. He going to hold the microphone. And however long he feels like talking, I'm going to let him talk. Now, y'all, I don't do that for anybody. That's not how I run an event that I'm moderating. But this is Reverend Jim Lawson. And so I handed him the microphone, and he begins to speak, and he was talking about activism. He was talking about how do you build and create movements. And then I got his phone number, and I wanted to interview him. And again, he didn't want to do the interview. And I'm sitting there going, again, y'all have to understand, I sat down with C.T. Vivian and Lowry and Young and Reverend Jackson, Zernano Clayton, Dorothy Cotton. I mean, I can name you so many of those figures who I literally sat down with, talked to, Maya Angelou, Merle Evers Williams. I mean, we can go on and on. I had to convince him to do the interview. When we sat down, he then told me that when they started the movement, Nashville movement, they spent 3 months, a whole 3 months, talking about why they wanted to change the country. Then he said they spent 3 months talking about how they would change the country. Now, I want you to juxtapose that to how we operate today. Today, we go from an idea to an event in 48 hours. We have already created a social media account. We've created a logo. We've already planned the event and the after party. We've created this whole in 48 hours. He said they spent 6 months talking about how and why. And then they began to get involved. And that blew me away because it was a level of deep thought that was shocking, because now I understood why they were so effective, because they were not in it just for the immediate satisfaction, the immediate glory. It was a deep understanding of what they were trying to achieve and what it was going to cost them. And just so you understand, if you go to my YouTube channel, go to the app, you will see my interview with him. This is a man who believes in nonviolence so much that because he was in seminary, the government would give anyone who was a seminary student a waiver so they did not have to enter the military draft. He was so much against the war, he rejected the waiver and went to prison because he was against the war. He could have stayed out of prison by accepting the waiver, yet he was so much against the war, he said, I will not accept your waiver. I will rather go to prison than to even accept your waiver to avoid the draft. That's a man walking in his full authority and understanding his conviction and purpose and what it was he was willing to give up and to accept. 3 of y'all, wake those 3 up. Those 3 right there. In the gray, wake those 3 up. I don't talk to rooms where folks sleep. Now, when you understand that person's thinking, now you begin to have a better understanding of who an individual is and what it is that they are trying to achieve. There's a seriousness of purpose by those individuals. And so this particular speech here, and I've actually been trying to find, I want to know what the full speech was, and this is only about a 2-minute portion of it. But I want you to hear something that Dr. King said that blew me away when I heard it, because what it does is it truly speaks to who he is. So I want you to just listen to this.
I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. As I said to the group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennisonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation.
So he said, sign your own Emancipation Proclamation and assertive manhood. He's talking about freedom. He's speaking of freedom. And when you reach a state where you begin to operate and say you want to be a free man of color, that does not mean you are out of jail. It means that you are not defined by somebody else's understanding of who you are and what you should be and what it is that you should do. To be a free man, this also applies to women, but to be a free man means no one can define you based upon the value of the athletic shoes on your feet. That if you are I had one of my colleagues when I was at TV1 and I was in the office and she's like, oh my God, what are these shoes you have on? Shoes I paid for. Oh my goodness, I mean, what? You couldn't get some Nikes? Didn't want them. She was like, I don't understand. I said, I don't give a damn about no swoosh. She was literally, now see, here's what she didn't understand. I had gone to, when the Houston Texans, I'm from Houston, born and raised, they were playing the Baltimore Ravens, and I drove to the game. I had field passes, and I had season tickets in Houston, but I knew the ownership there, and so I was going on the field before the game. And I drove in some sandals, left my tent. I said, damn, I don't have my athletic shoes. So it's like 10:30 in the morning, so you like, I got to buy some shoes. Well, ain't no mall open, so what is open at 10:30 in the morning where you can buy some shoes? Walmart. So I go to Walmart. So I'm going through Walmart. Now, mind you, all I needed was some white shoes. I didn't give a damn about, are they white? That was it. My pants were white. My jersey was white. My hat, that's all I needed. So I'm going through, cool. I like these. I bought them. I bought them. They were like, I don't know, $25. I don't care. but they served a purpose. She was just aghast. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? I said, they were $25 damn. Why was I gonna pay? I got some white tennis shoes at home. I wasn't about to pay another $100, $200 for some damn shoes I was not gonna be wearing a hell of a whole lot. But she was, mind you, this is the same person when her apartment got broken into, they stole her Nike collection. She had a collection of Nike shoes. And she was distraught. She was distraught. I said, now see, had you had some Nike stock. She is imprisoned. She was imprisoned by this idea of, I need to wear this to impress you. One of my production people, we were going in my car. He was like, damn, he said, dog, when you gonna wash your car? I went, oh, it's dirty? He was like, now he has one of the passes where he get his car washed every week. I said, man, listen to me. I don't give a damn about this car that much. I get in it, I go. I come back, I go in the house. I leave, I go. Hit my runs, I come back. Y'all think I'm lying. I didn't probably watch that car for a year. I didn't give a damn. I really do not care. Does it work? Yep. Did it get me to A, B, C, and D? Yep. Did it get me back safely? Yep. We good. I'm not operating. I really don't care what somebody else thinks. I remember when Steve Harvey and I had this battle with Pocket Squares at Essence Festival, and so one year we would be going at it. And so one year I was at a St. Jude event, and this guy had this feather in his pocket square, and I was kind of like, damn, that's cool. I'm like, that's different. I was like, hell, my sister can make that. My sister, she's an artist, and she makes stuff, and I was like, yeah, she can make that. So I sent her a note. I said, I need you to make me some feather pocket squares. She's like, what? I said, just listen, just follow my instructions. I know what I'm talking about. So she sent me about 30 or 40 of them. I said, no, fix this. And so then we were getting ready for Essence, and I tweeted back. I said, Steve, I'm going to be on your ass when we get to New Orleans. And he was like, okay. So he's on the air, and so I posted a photo. So they were on the radio, and he's like, Roland Martin came to New Orleans with some feathers. And he's like, what? So they thought I just stuffed some feathers down my pocket. I'm like, no, Steve, there's more to that than just stuffing feathers. So then when he saw it, he was kind of like, damn, that's hot right there. I got to admit that. He said, I wasn't thinking. He said, yeah, I wasn't thinking it was going to look that good. Then I had some other brothers like, oh, man, that looked gay. I couldn't wear it. No, seriously. And I said, first, did you actually think I wore it for you? I said, man, I don't wear nothing for nobody. Now, check this out. So we go to the White House for a Christmas party, and I was already rocking the ascot. I used to always wear ascots. Brothers were like, man, why you rocking the ascot? I'm like, because I can. Being different. I'm not trying to be like everybody else, okay? So we're at the White House. We're in line, and so I'm rocking the ascot. I got the feather pocket square. So we get to the front line. Obama goes, really? Really? You got the ascot really rolling the feather? Now, while he's talking, Michelle's over there touching the feather. She's like, oh, this is nice. And I went, see, this wasn't for you. He's like, man, come on, take this photo. And see, the point there was, I'm not concerned with what somebody else is thinking with what I have on. I look good, feel good, damn what you think. And that really is how I've always operated, in that I am walking in my full authority, where I am not driven by what you think and trying to please you, because I know there's a purpose with what I'm trying to do and accomplish, and your opinion really don't mean that much to me. And there are a lot of folk today who literally, your entire life, if you study your life, you are caring so much with what somebody think. Oh, I remember when folks used to sit there and go, man, nah, why you got a backpack on both shoulders? You got to be cool with one. Now listen to this. No, that ain't. I'm trying to tell you the state of mind. Because what I'm trying to get you to understand is literally the things that we say and how people are then being driven based upon that smaller thing. So they were like, no, man, that ain't cool. Well, first of all, you do know that there's a certain weight that goes in the backpack. And the purpose of the backpack is to equally distribute the weight. That's why they got 2 straps. So you know if your ass wear it on one strap, you jacking up one shoulder. So now you creating a shoulder problem because you so cool, it's on one shoulder. Now probably if your backpack empty, that might be fine. But people like me read books. So I have a functional backpack. I have things that are in it. And I was like, so I don't understand what y'all, and it looked at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, so I don't care. I'm gonna wear it on 2 shoulders because both my shoulders are gonna be fine. But you go ahead and have a rotator cuff problem, but go right ahead. But again, that whole thing was just, no, but you ain't being cool. I want you to start thinking this right here. Think about all the different things in your life, whether it's your friends, your classmates, your family members, where people have actually said things to you about what you should be doing, should be wearing, should be saying, and you are actually responding to that level of peer pressure, and now what they think and what they might say is now driving what you do. That means that you are not actually creating, somebody sent me this video of Jay-Z discussing this. That means that you are going with the flow and not creating your own flow. You are walking behind somebody else and you're not establishing your own footprints and leaving your own mark. And when you walk in your full authority as a 21st century man, that means that you now begin to say, I am unwilling to follow y'all. I'm willing to go here. So, yeah, if you tell me I'm not being cool by following you, knowing full well that if I follow you, y'all might be going down a path that could be destructive in my life. I have met brothers who got in the wrong car at the wrong time, following the wrong people, whose life was completely altered by that single decision. I've known some brothers who have followed certain women down a path, and that's not the path they wanted to go on because, oh man, but she cute, I love her. Yeah, but she crazy. I know some people who, because that's my brother, that's my homeboy, I got to follow. No, I ain't got to follow them nowhere. It's like, well, no, then I love this one here. Well, no, man, you supposed to have my back. I don't have the back of stupid, crazy people. And this is not, hey man, you trying to sell somebody out. No. I know where I'm going with my life. I know what my mama and daddy invested in. I know what they did to get me to where I am, and I be damn if I'm about to mess this thing up because you think I need to follow you for making a silly, dumb decision. Those are the types of decisions that we all have to make every single day. And some of us might think, well, that's just a small thing. No, because that small thing can metastasize into something larger. You might have a slight toothache and may not realize your teeth are rotting at that very moment, but you've ignored that slight toothache, and then 6 months later, it's a larger problem. And so what I am saying to you is you must be thinking and operating today, knowing full well this is the vision that I have for my life that God is giving me, and this is where I'm trying to go. And what I'm not about to do is have any of y'all mess up where I'm trying to go, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. And I can think back to numerous moments in my life, in elementary school, in junior high, in high school, and in college, and post-college, where folk wanted me to do certain things and go certain places and say certain things. I'm like, nah, I'm good. No, you're not coming with us? Nope, ain't gonna happen. Drink this. Nope. Why? I don't drink. Oh, you don't drink alcohol? No. You ever done drugs? No. I don't drink coffee. Energy drink. Tea. I'm good. Your energy can't match mine. You can take it as whatever you want to take. If I'm high on life and I know where I'm going, I am perfectly fine if nobody in the room appreciates what I'm trying to do. I don't need anybody to actually be my hype man. I don't need that. Look, I appreciate the introduction. She had to read all that. I would say, go look it up. When I speak, they come to me and they say, hey, I'm going to say this. I'm like, it don't matter. It's all true. You can read the long version, the short version don't matter to me. I'm not worried about all of that because they can actually go read it. When you think that way, you are marching to the tune of your own drummer, and what you're also doing is you're letting folk know that, look, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, this is what I want to be. You are now in a situation where you are now 21 years away from America becoming a nation of people of color, majority of people of color. You're in a situation now where there are more of you sitting in this university than at any time in American history. King was assassinated just 54 years ago. I was born into an America where I was not fully free, technically. My nieces and nephews are the first generation of my family, technically born fully free. All of you were technically born fully free. Why do I keep saying technically? Because the reality is we still are fighting for full, unadulterated freedom in America. When you think about that, it now changes your perspective and your viewpoint as to what it is that you should be trying to do as a man of color in this country in the 21st century. That means that now the decisions that you make cannot be sole decisions based upon you and your likes and your whims. You now must be thinking generationally, because the decisions that every single one of you makes today has a direct bearing on the circumstance of your children's children. Let me repeat that. The decisions that you make today will have a direct bearing on your children's children. What you earn today will determine whether you have generational wealth. What you do today, groups you join, initiatives you're involved with, can have a relationship to what happens to them. The decisions that my parents made impacted what I did. My wife and I have raised 6 of my 13 nieces. One of my nieces works for me right now. If I don't do what I did, I'm not in a position to own what I have. I could not provide for them. The life that I gave them puts them in a position to create a better life for their children. So my parents' actions led to my actions, which led to how they are operating and how their children are going to benefit from my decisions. When you begin to think that way, you now begin to see the world a lot differently. You now begin to make decisions differently. You now begin to realize that this is not just about you, it's really about who else you're impacting. And so I want you, as you are moving forward, every single day. I know you might say, man, is your life fun? Oh, I got hella fun. I travel all around the world. I see amazing people. I play in golf tournaments. I go to amazing parties. There's nobody I haven't seen. I can go through my life and think about being at Prince's house at a private party and dance on his dance floor, and he was like, "You're welcome in my house anytime." saying that brother having a good time. I can think about being on stage with Patti LaBelle and being backstage with Frankie Beverly and Mays and hanging out in the dressing room with Lionel Richie and being able to talk to text Will Smith or Steph Curry at any time. I can go on and on and on with the life that I have, but none of that matters if I don't do what I do in my career that makes me me. People come up to me and they say, man, I want to do what you do. I said, no, but do you want to do what I did? They say, I want to do what you do, but do you want to do what I did? Do you want to put in the work? Do you want to grind? People, I don't have relationships with multiple presidents and celebrities and entertainers and athletes because of just who I am. It's because of the work. They see the work. They're responding to the work. And then when I am meeting them, they're like, oh my God, I am a fan. I see Halle Berry for the first time. I'm like, oh my God, Halle Berry. She goes, no, Roland Martin. But she says, I'm a fan of your work. It's the work. So what I need you to understand is, for you to walk in your full authority, I need you to be understanding that when you are walking the right way, and when you're not following the crowd, when you're the one who is setting the trend, when you're the one who is saying, I know I'm walking in my purpose, and I'm not going to allow you to derail me from my purpose. And when I say not allow you, the you might be your mama and your daddy. The you really might be your cousins or your brother and your sister, because not everybody sees what you see in terms of the vision for your life. Amen. And so leaving here, I want each of you to answer 3 questions. And you can pull your pad out. You can actually pull your phone. I want you to write these 3 questions down. And this is the homework I'm going to leave you with. Question number 1. Are we doing questions? What are we doing? Got it. Cool. Question number 1. What is God's purpose for my life? That's number 1. Number 2, what will I do today to fulfill the purpose for my life? That's number 2. Third question, and the final question. What am I willing to give up today in order to reach my full potential tomorrow? What am I willing to give up today to reach my full potential tomorrow? When you look at those 3 questions, those should be 3 questions that you should be looking at every single day. And so when you begin to move and operate, and when you begin to see things differently than everybody else, and I'm telling you right now, other people are not going to see what you see. You're going to be in circumstances where you're standing there and you're going to be saying stuff and doing stuff, and they're going to look at you like you're an absolute alien, because they're like, none of that stuff is possible. You're like, no, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. And there may be times that I'm not suggesting you do this, but I'm just going to give you this one example. When I was in college at Texas A&M University, we had a writing assignment. It was for a test, and it was a 15-minute class, and I arrived 15 minutes late and left 15 minutes early. And I made like an 84, 86, something like that. And so when we got the papers back, the professor said, I need to talk to you at the class. I was like, okay. And so she says, you know, had you applied yourself, had you come to class on time and left on time, you could have made an A. I said, Doc, I didn't care about the A. She's like, excuse me? I said, here's what I need you to understand, Doc. When I graduate, I'm going to be working for a newspaper, and I'm going to be on deadline. And I'm going to have to write a story in 20 minutes. And if I have not trained and conditioned myself to write a story in 20 minutes by taking a set of facts, then I'm not going to be successful, and then I might not have a job. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me how I made an 86. And when I come back to class next time, I'm walking in here 15 minutes late. I'm leaving 15 minutes early. And I'm going to write it in 20 minutes. Now, she was offended. So we began to go back and forth. And so finally, I said, you know what, Doc, just do me a favor. Why don't you teach them? And I'll be over here. Now, some of y'all might say, damn, he's arrogant as hell. I need you to understand something. I went to a communications high school. I had 4 years of communications before I got to college. Most of the students in the class didn't actually want to be journalists. They had failed other colleges. They just simply wanted a Texas A&M degree. They didn't even want to be in journalism. So they were not serious about the craft. I was. Secondly, she never actually worked in the business. She was teaching us theoretical. I needed practical. And so I, in essence, created my own curriculum when I was in college. And my other professors who actually worked in the business told me, Roland, we teach you differently than we teach the rest of them because we see what you are trying to do. Now, that's when I was in college. I hope that same professor is alive. Because, see, on next Saturday, I will be here in D.C. inducted to the Southern Professional Journalists Hall of Fame. Now, mind you, I was inducted to the National Association of Black Journalists Hall of Fame in December, to the Texas A&M Journalism Ring of Honor 10 years ago. So she didn't even read all the awards and the 6 honorary degrees and all things that I've done. The point I'm making is I was walking in my purpose. When I walked on my high school campus, I said, I will be the best student that has ever come through this school. Not the best student up until this time. The best student, including who comes through in the future. Now, somebody may say, man, ooh, that's, no, because if you're a basketball player and you say, I want to be one of the greatest, they praise you. If you're a young brother and you say, I want to be the best running back ever, America praises you. But if you don't play sports, they think something is wrong with you. And so when you have that state of mind, when you say, I want to be the absolute best in what I do, and I want to achieve things that no one else has achieved, or I want to do this, that's walking in your purpose. When I left TV One and turned down $300,000, I said, I'm creating my own network. I knew what I was doing. I knew that it was a risk, but here we are 4 years later and have created the network, created multiple shows. That is walking in your purpose. It is redefining how someone views you, and is you not being worried about the people who say you cannot succeed, you cannot achieve that. And the same folk who said it to me in high school, when I go to Houston on November 11th, when the Houston Independent School District has their 100th anniversary, and when they honor their greatest 100 graduates, I'm one of them. That's walking in your purpose and being a 21st century man and not worrying about what your critics have to say. Every single one of you can do the same thing. And you may not meet top celebrities. You may just be working in IT. You may be working in HR. Maybe working at a convenience store, but you might own the convenience store. When you think that way, and when that's how you think at the age you are now, 20, 30 years from now, you look back and folks say, how in the world did you do all of that? Because I knew my purpose. I thought every day, what am I doing to achieve my purpose? And then thirdly, I had to give up some stuff and to sacrifice some stuff to reach my purpose and to live in my destiny. You do that, and then you would truly be a successful 21st century man. Thank you.